My partner in crime. Come on in, dearie. Hi. So good. Okay, so let me just center myself here. There we go. Hello. Hello, everybody. This is my partner in crime, Dave. Thanks for joining us.
No problem.
You can tell he leaves the showboat to me, right? So good. Okay, so I get this all the time, right? I hear from people that I want to invest in. I need to talk to my partner because I don't know if we're on the same page, right? So I have some questions that I have for you, and Dave doesn't know anything I'm going to ask him. But also, I had my current clients ask me some questions to ask him. And then if you are live on Instagram or Facebook, feel free to ask questions as well, okay? And I will get to those towards the end too. So as a starting point, what's always been, let everybody know your perspective on personal growth. Like, what's it been in the past?
My perspective for me or for
me, for you, for us?
As far as personal growth goes, I mean, there's a lot when it comes to accountability, I find. You're constantly learning, you're constantly stretching yourself, right? Whether it's through reading, watching videos, working with a coach, having an accountability partner, anything like that, right? Mm-hmm. So when you, and those are things that I've done all of them in my life, both through business. I've had a friend that I've worked with as an accountability partner, whether it be for business goals, personal health goals, financial goals, whatever it may be, right? So I know that when it comes to personal growth, it's a stretch, it's trying, right? I kind of explained it to Dylan, like it's like somebody new going to the gym or somebody who's never ran before trying to learn how to run a marathon, right? It's painful, it's tough, but the more you do it, the stronger you're going to get, right? And you're going to build those muscles, right? And your brain just kind of works the same way. It's when you start doing those things, it takes time to adapt to the new principles and being able to put things into play that bring that growth in your life. But once you do, you get momentum going. And once you have that momentum, it's kind of stuff. It's tough to stop.
But okay, so everybody can see this is a guy that believes in personal growth. Okay, so even coming at it from a personal growth perspective, and like Dave and I had done lots of things together, right? Like when we went to like Tony Robbins Unleash the Power Within, we did it together, walking across coals and like pumping each other up, right? Or like, hey, read this book, do this, whatever, right? So knowing that, in your perspective, what were your honest thoughts when I first told you about thinking of results?
Honest thoughts?
Always.
It was definitely a significant investment, but I had to look at it that way, as it wasn't a significant cost. It was an investment, right? It was an investment in yourself because I knew what it was that you were trying to achieve. I knew what personal goals were. Mm-hmm. I knew what your goals were for your business. I knew what your goals were for our family. I knew what they were for you to grow financially. And I looked at that as going, okay, if even at the end of the day, based on the investment side of it, you only ever made that much, I'm like, it's paid for itself financially. But I knew, and knowing you, I knew that you were going to grow beyond just the initial investment of it, right? It was definitely, I kind of looked at it like, wow, that's a lot of, or either early mornings or extra time that you have, to do things. But I think the way that you structured it into your schedule, and when I saw you going through it initially and doing the coaching, I saw these shifts in you gradually and the momentum that you got as you were going through it.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. And that's, so which brings me to my next question. While I was going through it, and, since I was, practicing this stuff regularly, shifts did you see in me?
Positivity for sure. You had more energy, you were more focused, right? And I saw that too. Like I saw like the reoccurring things that you were doing every single day. You were building new habits. You were transferring these habits to our kids, which was really cool to see, because it was cool to see Dylan going through this, but then seeing the mindset of our kids changing on some things, right? Because they're obviously, you know what, like children are a product of your environment. And when they were, you know, surrounded by this and Delenn talking about it, it definitely had an impact on them. Having run a business myself and currently running a business and going through, you know, over the last 12 months, my business being closed for 6 months, that is something that weighed on my mind a lot. And I think the timing of Delenn going through the thinking and the results was good because it kept me in check, even at certain points, right? I mean, it was, in a sense, it was accountability and coaching for me because there was days that I didn't want to hear it, but it was good because she brought me on track, got me back on point, and got me focused on what it was that I was trying to achieve and not focused on what I was currently going through with the business, right? That current event.
Yeah. But I mean, I remember that conversation that we kind of both had, me going into it, and like the time and money blocks that we both had, right? Even though we had invested in ourselves before, they were real and they existed, right? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Like with all the development or self-growth, like whether it be going to conferences, like you said, Tony Robbins, reading books, those are good in the moment, but they're short, right? They only last 1 day, 3 days, 4 days, right? And you're pumped up in the moment. But I think what was missing, and that's where I found that thinking and results was really beneficial for you, was it was an everyday thing, right? Changes don't happen in 3 or 4 days or, you know, in a week term when you're doing a program. It takes a lot of repetition. It takes a lot of consistency to keep your eyes on that, because there's going to be a lot of distractors that come in, or distractions that come in when you're focusing on trying to get to your goal or whatever it may be that you're trying to achieve. And you need that every single day, because it's very easy to get off the rails, right? And, you know, just lose your focus on what your goals are.
Yeah. And that's where it's even like, and there were times where I even would say, okay, Dave, this will be my next goal. Like, hold me to it, right? And like inviting those people, but it's really had a shift and an impact in our home, right? Like I went into it saying, this is what I want to do for my business. This is what I want to, you know, this is how I want to show up, and I need more clarity, and I know I need a goal, but I don't, right? I went into it with all of these thoughts, but then it was like, I show up and I mom different, I wife different, I daughter different, I friend different, I do. And it wasn't a huge shift. It was just enough of a shift, right? That it's impacted our entire lives. Like, and I'll never go back. Like can't go back, which is super cool, right? And even, so I asked any of the current TIR peeps that are with us right now, to ask their partners to answer some questions. And so I'm going to ask those to you. Okay. So one said, he said, my thoughts about my wife doing thinking into results were all great thoughts. And he says, I'm happy she got the opportunity to do it. I'm very happy with the results I see in her, and will be even better as the future carries on. She's done a very great job at taking things in and learning and putting them all into place. And he can see how it makes his wife happier and more efficient and makes the entire house better. It also helps for him to be on the same page when he's learning. So, which is great, 2 of them. So it's actually like kind of like what you were saying, Dave, it's grown. So he asked what difference it's actually, let me just read this here, what difference it was actually going to make, and how it works thinking, learning that way. How would help you grow your business. So how does thinking in a different way, how have you seen that thinking in a different way can help you grow your business?
Going back to what I think I said before, right? Where it's very easy to get distracted and get off track with what you're doing. And keeping that mindset, that focus on your goal and kind of living as your goal achieved, right?
Mhm.
No, so not living in the moment, but start acting and being as though you've achieved your goal. And I've explained this to Delynn before with running a health club. And when somebody comes in with a significant, personal fitness goal, that they say, okay, I want to achieve, my goal is to lose 40 pounds, right? And the number one best thing that somebody like that can do, and no matter what their fitness goals are, but would be working with a personal trainer, right? And the way I've kind of explained it to people before is, if I gave you all the tools, the hammer, the nails, the concrete, the wood, everything like that, could you build your own house, right? Could you start? And the truth is that yes, you probably could, but it might take you 10, 15 years, right? You might get halfway done and realize you made a mistake early on, and you need to take everything down that you've done and restart again, right? So when you're working with a coach, when you're working with somebody, it's to help you put in, they're there to help you dig the hole. They're there to help you pour the foundation. They're there to help you build the frame. They're there to help you put up the trusses, right? They're there then to help you, put on the roof and shingle it, right? So when you're doing it, there's a lot more accountability, and it's keeping you on track. There's always going to be bumps in the road, right? We live in a very negative society, especially right now, and we're surrounded with all sorts of negativity, whether it's in the news, whether it's, friends, family, right? People trying to pull you from achieving your goals. But when you're working with a coach, that you're a lot more apt to stay on track and focused with what it is. And when you do get off track, somebody's right there to pull you back on and keep you on track, right? Again, going with the health goals, it's like if you're trying to lose 40 pounds and you slip up on your nutrition, if you're not working with a coach, nobody knows, right? So it's easy to keep slipping up, and it's easy to keep not achieving that goal, right? Whereas if you have somebody that pulls you back on track, it's okay that you have that bump. They're there to pick you up, dust you off, and kind of push you forward.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with working with a personal growth, coach,
Yeah.
whether you're trying to increase your finances, you're trying to get a job promotion, you're trying to start your own business, you're trying to increase your own sales, in your current business, whatever it may be, right? When you have somebody that's keeping you on track and, and helping you implement the things and, discovering the way to do it, that it will better you.
Yeah. Bob always says that, that accountability is your insurance policy against failure, right? It like stops you from getting in your own way, right? And I honestly think, and I think of all of the personal development that I did prior to having a coach, right? And the structure, like literally with Thinking into Results, I remember thinking, oh, like I literally just wake up and I listen to this and Consult Digital, like I listen to this and I study this and I, can get in with the study group and it's easy and it's laid out and I literally don't even have to think about it except for dive into and answer the questions, right? And like really hone in on myself, right? It's so well laid out. But it was that accountability and having that coach that even on the days where I had all the reasons, right? We have 2 little kids. I had all the reasons on why I shouldn't show up. And it was like, no, I need to show up. And people are like, my accountability partner is going to be texting me. She's going to be asking, right? And I just knew, which is so cool. Another question. A husband asks, I see my wife is very passionate about Thinking into Results the deeper she gets. How can I be more supportive in making this process more easy?
Listening, right? Because they're excited about it. So when they're telling you about it, listen, right? Because it may benefit you too. Might change your mindset, right? You might have some aha moments while you're there doing that. Allow them the time to do it, right? To go through it, because I realized with Delynn, like the time that it was going to take, which wasn't an exorbitant amount of time, but it was definitely something added into our already busy life schedule. But Delynn makes it work early in the mornings. But in doing that, right, is I know that by supporting her in whatever way it is that she's working on this, that it helps us as a whole, with our goals, right? Like her goals, her financial goals are my financial goals, right? And we do that. We do goal setting together, right? So that could be another way that you could be supportive, is sit down and, get on the same page with the goals, right? So you're working in sync together, right? Whether it's, you want to travel the world, you want to have house on the lake, you want to, have $10 million in the bank, whatever it may be. Get on the same page and discuss your goals. And even if your goals initially don't align, you might find that over time that they do get in sync with one another.
Yeah.
I know Delynn came out with these like massively huge goals when she first started, and like my jaw kind of dropped. I was like, really? Okay. But I think the more that I set my mind around it, right, and it's, there's a guy named Grant Cardone, and his big thing is like 10 times it, right? So you need to kind of take what your initial goal is and add it to a 10 times factor to it, because when you're thinking about it that much bigger than what you want to achieve, if you want to make $10, we'll make your goal to make $100, right? If you want to make $10 million, make your goal to make $100 million, right? Just 10 times that goal. So, it's this big, huge goal that, it might seem so far out of reach, but then it makes the initial goal that much closer and easier to obtain.
Yeah, I love that. I think that the listening and understanding that, and we talk a lot about this in Thinking Results, is responsibility, right? And I always tell people that there's a big difference between being responsible for somebody and being responsible to somebody. So like my kids are really little, I'm responsible to and for them. But and I'm responsible to Dave. We've decided to do life together, but I'm not responsible for him, right? He has his own goals and where he wants to go, and I have mine, right? And we have ours together, right? So even if, and initially when I was like, this is what I'm gonna do, and he was like, right, but his paradigm, that was his learning, his thinking, that was having him sit here, but he still had his own things, right? And mine were over here, and they're parallel, right? But then they met up in the middle, right? So I think the best thing you can do is just keep like listening and supporting and like love through it, right? And when you're ready, like dive in yourself, right? It's so cool. Another question is that I want my partner to keep growing, and this might be fear, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little worried that they will outgrow me. What do you say to that?
I think kind of the same answer that you just had, right? Like get your goals and be in line with one another, right? Yeah. Have a little self-humility. As long as if you're growing together, they're not outgrowing you.
Yeah.
I would say for sure, right? And like Delynn just said, right? Like she has her goals, I have my goals, we have our own couples goals. We're a team. And her goals are, ultimately mine. So that's not a fear that I have.
Yeah.
Because I know as she achieves her goals that, it opens up and creates more opportunities for our family as a whole. And it helps with my own personal goals that I have, that if she's doing very well, that's going to ultimately, benefit me in achieving my goals.
Yep.
I said goals a lot there.
You did say goals a lot there. That's okay. No, but this is where it's like, it's so far beyond the happy wife, happy life, right? Because everybody needs to be happy. But what we talk about in Thinking to Results is we talk about these universal laws that we must live in alignment with, right? Just like we know gravity is going to kick in, right? Like attracts like. Everything happens for a reason. And I trust and know that this union, sounds very old fashioned, was brought together for a reason, right? And we're meant to grow together, right? And whatever's happened in his life before me or my life before him or our lives together was meant to happen for a reason, right? So it's just like what is meant to be, you will always become a vibrational match for each other. It might go like this at some points, right? But as long as you can stay on the same page, then you're always going to be growing together, right? As long as there's that respect there. It all comes down to respect, right? And if you can kind of go with that, then that's where the golden nugget is. So I hope that is helpful. Is there any other questions that have come in? Thanks for joining us over on Facebook. Hello over on Instagram and YouTube. Amazing. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for our current Thinking to Results gang for asking your partners those questions. And thank you to the hubbies for getting back to them. That's so good. See, we're on the right track. I love it. Have an awesome day, you guys. And